flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. Supervisor Carper is joining us on the phone this afternoon. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, and I would move that.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Items 2 through 4 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 2 is approval of the minutes of the January 27, 2026 meeting. Item 3 is approval of claims. Item 4 from Human Resources, Melissa Thomas, is a memorandum of personnel, approval of a memorandum of personnel transactions. That is the end of the consent agenda, and I would move that.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Carries 5-0. Item 5 from Human Resources, Melissa Thomas. Item A is approval of requested exemptions to the mobile device management policy. Melissa, take it away.
Melissa Thomas, Human Resources Director. So this was brought up last week. Some departments have requested exceptions to the new device policy. Those positions are listed in the backup, and there's the sheriff, conservation, as well as secondary roads, so that their hourly employees are allowed to look at their, or can access their emails on their cell phones, on their personal phones. So this is requesting the board to approve those exceptions. Any questions?
And it was 3 departments: secondary roads, conservation, and sheriff's office.
Department. Yep.
Mr. Chair, if I may ask a couple questions. So in regards to if an hourly individual does access after hours, are we obligated to pay them 2 hours of pay or just the amount of time? And do we need to create something for the time card system in order for them to enter that time that they're using the emails?
It would be just the amount of time. And we may need to, I don't know what would be created in the background for the time card system, off hours, or I don't know, whatever you think would be best to record that.
Yeah, I mean, they could add a working out of office. I'd assume we just would obligated to pay them 15-minute increments. And if you want us to have a different code, we could make one. Otherwise, they could just use the working out of office.
I think working out of office would be appropriate.
That's good. Would that work for you, Michelle, and your staff?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that would be fine.
All right. Sounds agreeable. Any questions for, excuse me, any questions for Melissa? All right, seeing none, I would move it.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Bittinger. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Carries 5-0. Now, item B, also from Melissa Thomas, is approval of the Woodbury County timekeeping and compensation policy.
So to kind of put a little teeth into this, we decided to create a policy so that employees do know what's expected of them. And basically, what is expected is for them not to work past hours. If they do have to work past hours, then to make sure that it's already been approved by their supervisor. I did have Joshua go through this policy, and he said it looked good, so that's what we're trying to pass here, so everybody has direction. And then, obviously, if something, does happen and it doesn't get recorded, then there would be some disciplinary action involved, so.
Any questions for Melissa or Joshua?
Well, I guess there's a question. Is there a way to track if they get on something after hours, or is it just on their, if it's not approved by their supervisor, that would be the,
Well, if the supervisor has any, thinks that the employee is getting on after hours, they can ask WCICC to track that.
okay. So
And
it's
then
not like, yeah.
They can be
somebody
accountable
getting
for
on
that
there and
time.
then without supervisor approval and saying, hey, we're doing this or
Right.
that. Okay.
Great question. I would move it.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, item 6 from Planning and Zoning, Dan Priestley. Item A is to receive the final report and the Zoning Commission's recommendation from their January 26, 2026 meeting to approve the final plat of the, how do I want to say it? I want to. Riordan, okay, thank you. The Riordan addition, a minor subdivision to Woodbury County, Iowa, to establish a 7.92 acre lot from a portion of parcel ending in 00002 for David and Kim Riordan of the Donald and D. Beverly L. Riordan Trust. Dan, take it away.
Yes, and so the zoning commission sends you their recommendation for this plat with a 3-0 vote. This is located in section 8 of the Union Township. It's a 7.92 total acre parcel, and really the objective was to split the house away from the farm ground. And they looked at access situation that they're working on as far as the remaining farm ground, and that looks in good shape, and so they send the recommendation over for approval.
Any questions for Dan?
I'll move to receive.
Second. Motion by Dietrich, seconded by Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Now on to item B is to accept and approve the Riordan addition, a minor subdivision to Woodbury County, Iowa.
And I don't have anything else to add.
I would move it.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Bittenger. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. All right, item 7 from Board Administration, Ryan Erickson. Item A is approve the resolution setting February 24th, 2026 at 4:40 PM for a consultation and a public hearing on a proposed 2026 amendment to the Grow Woodbury County Urban Renewal Plan in Woodbury County.
Yeah, I always give Dan a hard time about filling up the agenda, but I'm responsible for it this week. So the first one on the agenda is the resolution to amend the Grow Woodbury County Urban Renewal Plan. The reason for the amendment is to add the land area where the interchange project will be taking place. That is all that is going to be added to the urban renewal area, as you can see in the map in the back. There will be no future, districts added due to the agreement that the county has with the cities of Sioux City and Sergeant Bluff. So the reason that we are adding this land area is so then it is part of the Grow Woodbury County Urban Renewal, and then we can use TIF financing to fund the construction of the interchange project.
Any questions for Ryan? I would move approval.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Item B is approval of bond council engagement agreement for proposed issuance of not to exceed $1.2 million in general obligation capital loan notes series 2026A.
This and the next three items on the agenda are our regular borrowing for CIP projects. This year is 1.2 million, and all of those projects have been already presented to and approved by the board. A couple have already taken place and been paid for. This borrowing will reimburse the general fund for what has already been expended, and as the other projects are completed, that will, these funds will pay for those. The first item is just, we've worked with Allers and Cooney in the past, and this is a agreement for them to be the bond counsel on these three items, which it'll still be one borrowing, but because of the nature of the projects, they had to be divided into three categories.
And just for point of reference, Allers and Cooney is who the county has always used for their, as our bond attorney, so it's nothing new here, just entering an agreement. Dave, you have a question? No? Any questions or comments for Ryan? I would move approval.
Second?
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Bittinger. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Item C is approval of resolution to fix February 24, 2026 at 4:45 PM for a meeting to authorize a loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $640,000 in general obligation capital loan notes.
As I stated earlier, the total of the borrowing will be 1.2 million, but because of the projects, they had to be divided into three different categories. This 640,000 is for essential county projects, and that was the demolition of the old county jail, and then IT projects are considered essential. So that's what covers is in this 640,000.
Any questions for Ryan?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Second?
Motion by Bittinger, seconded by Carper. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Item D is approval of a resolution to fix February 24th, 2026 at 4:50 PM for a meeting to authorize a loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $319,300 of general obligation capital loan notes. And I'll hand it over to Ryan Erickson.
Yeah, the items included in this part of the borrowing are the building projects for the county courthouse, which includes like the elevator. It includes some work that was done out at the Climbing Hill EMS location. So that's what's included in this $319,300.
And this would be in the non-essential
Yes.
category, right? Yeah. Yep. Any questions for Ryan? I would move it.
Second?
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. And item E, approval of a resolution to fix February 24th, 2026 at 4:55 PM for a meeting to authorize a loan agreement in the issuance of not to exceed $240,700 in general obligation capital loan notes. Right?
This one is related to the Little Sioux Park Road. And
Okay.
because of the nature of the project, it had to be separated from the other non-essential items.
It's a little extra work that we have to divide all this out, but I guess it provides a little better clarity on some of the stuff. So it is what it is, right?
Just got to follow the Iowa code.
Yep. All right, I would move approval.
Second?
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Ryan. Item 8 from County Auditor Michelle Scaff is approval of funds up to $20,000 from fiscal year 26 gaming for ballot on-demand hardware and accessories. Michelle?
Thank you. So what I have before you today is a request for $20,000 from gaming to pay for a system called Ballot on Demand. This is a way that I believe will strengthen the security of our elections at Woodbury County. What Ballot on Demand is it's a printing system that we'd be purchasing 2 printers and 2 laptops that would be a secure way to print our ballots for in-house absentee voting. So currently, we order all of our ballots pre-printed and they're folded, and we keep them in a secure case in the auditor's office. But we have thousands of ballots during some of the larger elections that are just in a cabinet. Of course, it is secure, but having Ballot on Demand will allow us to print the ballots as needed when individuals come in to vote. So we don't have to store all of the folded ballots and keep track of all of those folded ballots that are in our office. The other thing that needs to be purchased with this is a folding machine, because if you've ever voted absentee, there's a very tight envelopes, and those ballots have to be folded in a particular way in order to fit in those envelopes. In the last city school election, we shredded probably about 7,500 folded absentee ballots. Usually it's kind of like we try to make our best guess by looking at statistics of how many ballots to order. We don't want to have too few ballots, so usually there's excess ballots. So this is a way that we can save money. If you look at a cost of about 20 cents per ballot, I estimated about 6,000 folded ballots were shredded. I think we looked at it today and it was actually closer to about 7,500. So the savings is about $1,200 just in the cost of the ballots that we wouldn't be shredding anymore because we would just be printing them. There's, in the background information, there's some information on the benefits of Ballot on Demand. There's several other counties in Iowa who use the system. Black Hawk County is one of them, and Black Hawk County is larger than us, and they love it. They speak very highly of it at all of our conferences. It's a system that we can use at our satellite locations. If we have 2 printers, we can have one in-house and we can have one at a satellite location. The biggest selling point for me is the security of the ballots, of being able to have a secure sign-on that only individuals that know the sign-on can get into the system, and to print those ballots as needed. And the accountability of how many ballots we have as far as balancing ballots at the end of the day to know that we have the right amount of ballots remaining. So the cost of the equipment in your backup material is $15,290. That covers for the 2 printers and the 2 laptops and all of the and 500 blank ballots that we would have to purchase the ballots anyway. There's a $2,800 annual fee, which I have embedded within my budget. That's on Friday, so that will be in my budget already. I believe that the annual cost, we would save that in the amount of ballots that we're no longer over ordering on. The paper folder, there's in your backup, I guess I forgot to include the cost of that. The cost of the paper folder is $1,199 in order to be able to fold those ballots to fit within our secrecy sleeves. And I did add onto that total to cover a couple of carts so that it's easy to mobilize when we have absentee voting in the rotunda. We can move it out there so that our workers out there will be able to print the ballot and have it right with them. So I'd entertain any questions that you might have about the system or concerns.
Has Black Hawk County said how long do these printers systems, what's the hardware longevity? Do you have an idea?
I didn't ask them, but I do know that it's like 150,000 ballots or so, I believe is how many will print on, and that's on one printer.
Okay.
And the annual amount potentially could increase. This isn't a contract that is a set amount for a set amount of time. They said it could increase possibly 3% or so annually, so that is something that might fluctuate a little bit. And upon today's approval, if you approve this, they will send an additional contract, which if it's approved, then I would ask just to put that through a consent agenda when we have that for signature. And I'd have Joshua review that contract.
Well, to me, it sounds like a good step, a nice improvement to security, and I think it's a nice thing for the public to see is being done. Little improvements every year in this office, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not very often that we have items come in front of us that solve two problems, save us money and improve security. And I'll read, I know you had 7 positives here in your backup, Michelle, but I'll just read those quickly. Eliminates pre-printing waste, what you talked about, ensures the correct ballot style every time for the voter, reduces storage and logistics needs, which is a big deal. 4, real-time accountability and tracking. 5, cost savings over time, as you talked about. 6, streamline in-person absentee voting. And lastly, better security controls. So I think this is a no-brainer. So with that, I would move it. Motion by Nelson, seconded by Ung. Any further discussion or questions for the auditor? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Thank you,
Thank you,
Michelle.
appreciate it.
Yep. Item 9, budget review discussion for FY '27. Item A is Siouxland District Health, and I would turn that over to Mr. Ryan Ellerson and Mr. Kevin Green.
Thank you. Kevin Green, Director here at Siouxland District Health Department. With this budget request is what it normally is. It's usually a line item dollar amount. I think this year with the number of new board members and that opportunity, I'm going to take the chance, since I'm the only one on the agenda, to spend just a little bit of time explaining how the Siouxland District Health budget operates and how it's put together. So I did put some printed materials.
Move to receive.
Gave those to Karen in electronic format if you'd like to explain those.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. I don't know if Joshua wants one. We probably have. Oh, you do? Yeah, one to Joshua. He needs one. We want to share.
So what you're looking at here is the total department budget, but what I want to draw your attention to is those line items at the top that are under the tax funded. Those are the ones, those that are under the grants, those are the contracts and grants that the health department maintains. Those essentially are what we call a cash neutral basis. We only are able to expend those that are awarded to us. The other agreement with that is if any of those grants go away, that means we reduce the overall department budget and also staff and personnel and those types of things too. So we're really focused on those lines at the top. First off, the one I wanted to explain is the one that is listed, the health promotion that doesn't have an account number. Previously, all this work was done under the category of administration. We made the decision this year for better tracking and follow through with our population-based health initiatives that we would just separate that out of administration and create its own line item in there as far as health promotion. So it's not necessarily a new expenditure, it's a reduction from the administration moved into that line item. And then as you'll see, we have the nursing, the laboratory, and the environmental. So on the right-hand side, you see in the yellow columns of proposed, our initial tax asking that we reflected or gave to Ryan was the $3,515,143. And then next to that, you do see the increase and the decrease. It was an increase of $288,024 from last year to this year. If you flip to the second page that exists within it, this kind of articulates where those increases came from. This is where we factored in, our cost was about a 21% increase in health insurance. And as you see that, of the $289,000 total change, that was $121,141 that was contributed to health insurance. And then for salary and wages, this year we did factor in a 2.5% cost of living, but that 168 also includes what we call our step increases. Those new employees that are in their first 5 years that we do award a 5% with adequate performance, that's all additional benefit or compensation increases related to that. And that results in a $289,715, which is just right at that same amount that the total overall budget increased. And then down below, you'll just see the grant items also. On the last page, what gets interesting, and last year kind of caught me by surprise when we were in a learning position with all the transitions from Dennis to Ryan, Michelle, all those types of things. Normally when I came to this meeting, I would say, here's what our tax request is. Dennis would say, here's a dollar amount we estimate we can use out of the reserve fund, and here's what the final allocation. We've had conversations. I want to thank Dave and Daniel for coming up yesterday, along with Ryan, sat down with us to really go over this so there was a good understanding. Matthew's a past member of the Board of Health, so he's familiar with these forms. So Mark and Ken, this is your learning opportunity to ask questions. But one of the things is that the Sill District Health Department, when it was created in '78, had the ability to be able to have a reserve fund within the general fund of Woodbury County. That is what you see the historical trend. We are not about amassing a lot of cash that's available and accessible to us. We want to be due diligence of the funds that we receive. So every year on an annual basis, what we have done, and you'll see that historical trend, is where we have our original tax asking, and then down there is out of that cash reserve fund is the amount we reduce the tax asking by. This cash reserve fund comes from vacant positions. Sometimes we get one-time or periodic grant funding that we can use to pay for different expenses that we have within our overall department, which saves in the tax asking. That's what generates some of the savings. So over the last year is what it was. You'll see last year we did the $648,000 reduction. This year, when you take a look at it, as we actually see our health fund being at about 1.8. And the way that we calculated what was really a kind of agreeable carryover amount is 22% of last year's audited expenditures. And we don't have quite the audited expenditures, but we're comfortable with the numbers we have. So this year, what we're really looking at within that is we feel comfortable in saying there's $1 million that can be used out of that reserve fund, which reduces that overall tax asking down to the $2,515, $143. And that was what kind of Ryan had sent for a recommendation, and that's what we're able to accommodate with that too. So really our tax asking is a $3,515, $143 minus the million, so it's a $2,515, $143. Which, as you can see, is just slightly under what our final tax asking was for last year. And also, I should point out that this budget reflects our total. This is personnel and benefits. It's not just the operational side of the budgets, as many of those you've reviewed when some of the other departments have come and talked to you.
No, Kevin, I appreciate you meeting with Dan and Ryan and Dave. Dave called me afterwards and updated me, and I tried to talk to Ryan, but he was having so much fun with you guys that he didn't get back to me yesterday, so that's all right. But no, appreciate you doing that, and Dave, thanks for filling me in on that. I appreciate it very much, and appreciate the work that you guys do. How many employees?
63.
63. Oh, appreciate that very much. Any questions or comments for Kevin or for Ryan?
I do have one comment.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that if you want, Karen, can you go back to the first page? Yeah, when Kevin mentioned the reserve being based on expenditures, what we have, agreed and we'll get put in writing is the expenditures are the tax-funded function. So it's the first, I think, 5 numbers listed there. So that is 22% of the 3.5 million was about 800,000. So I just wanted to clarify that. So it's not the overall expenditures, because how district health operates is they have the tax-funded functions, and then all these other are funded by grants. And if a grant were to go away, then there would be adjustments in the budget.
And for people following along, and if you can see this in the pack up here, but your proposed budget is roughly $8.5 million in total, and you're only asking about $2.5 million from taxpayers. That's pretty remarkable. And to have the staff that you do and the work that you do. So you and your staff should be definitely commended for, finding those grants and locking those down, and so.
Thank you.
Very good work. Any other questions or comments for Ryan or Kevin? If not, I would move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Bittenger. Any discussion?
What was the amount that was in the backup material?
I'm sorry,
Do we need to
Michelle.
reduce that?
Yep. I move to receive with a reduction of $1 million to a total of $2,515,143.
Second.
There we go. Motion and seconded by Nelson and Bittenger. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Kevin.
Yep, thank you.
All right, item 10 is reports on committee meetings. Supervisor Dietrich, do you have anything? Not even on the landfill? Okay. Dan, you have anything?
I have none, not this week.
Matthew?
Yep, I attended the ISAC Statewide Supervisors Conference last week. Had one day of updates from ISAC staff and legislators. A few of them brave enough to join us. First, the main item obviously is property taxes. So there's 3 separate proposals on the floor, as we all know. There's the House, there's the Senate, and then there's the governor's options. The governor's options in the House add some additional limitations that are, I'll say, putting our services in competition with state mandates. So by limiting funds in the supplemental funds, we have a list that is already limited by task, and then we also have a limit on the funding. So it's putting us in an interesting position if the House or the governor's proposal passes. The Senate proposal essentially removes rollbacks in a way and puts us on a county-by-county rollback dynamic, which would allow counties to actually not all be administered the same. So that is closest to what ISAC is leaning towards supporting, of course, with the concession that more of our unfunded mandates be funded. In regards to the pipeline, as we know, the House file came out of committee, went to the floor, went to the Senate, had some interesting things happen in the Senate. The Senate version obviously does not institute a ban. It calls for a 5-mile radius instead of a 1 mile. It has a adjustment to the public meetings in phase 2. It gives 1 year to go through the process and report back to the committee, but then you can use eminent domain. So the reason to support this, according to the Senate, is that it puts eminent domain as the last resort, which is funny to me because it already is. So why say that? Why propose a bill that says it's the last resort? It already is. The position counties find themselves in now is that with the Supreme Court declining to hear the Summit case, it does leave it up to the legislature. And that means that the setback ordinances are highly scrutinized at the county level by the state, which is not great for counties because the companies will argue that anything the counties do is a safety ordinance, which is expressly not allowed to interfere by state law. So those are really the 2 biggest topics that were discussed. Obviously, the room made itself clear to the legislators on the property tax issues, and particularly the unfunded mandates. This is coming to a real head when they impose limitations on the supplemental funds that pay for these things. The only other thing that was mentioned of interest, I think, is this floated idea about appointing different elected officials instead of electing them outside of the Board of Supervisors. And the reasoning seems to be that it seems to work for cities and schools, but we're not cities and schools. So we have completely different roles, completely different jobs, and I don't think anyone is really in support of that. That's it.
Did you see that there is I know as a cherished Grant Township trustee, former Grant Township trustee, did you see that there is a Senate bill that would eliminate townships?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
another
well.
one of those bizarre things that we just don't understand, you know?
Can never take the Grant Township out of a man, though. That's,
Were any of us, I know that Governor Reynolds put a photo out of her sitting with a bunch of supervisors from Northwest Iowa. Were any of you invited to that? Yeah, so, I don't know, we're just the ugly stepchild. I guess Woodbury County, they don't want any of us around the Capitol. So, none of us were invited to sit with the governor, with other Northwest Iowa supervisors, so. Maybe it's because we're outspoken. I don't know.
It might be.
Might be. Kent, do you have anything to report?
Not this evening, no.
All right, I don't have anything either, so we'll move on to citizen concerns, item 11.
Yes, Kevin Green, Director of Sun District Health. After the gentleman asked last week about, we aren't hearing about anything about cancer, I did want to do a report, and I thank you, Chair Nelson, for mentioning the event we had last January 29th.
And I apologize, I couldn't make it.
Well,
But
that's all right. We did have over 100 people attended, both in person and virtually. It was great information. One of the things they kind of emphasized, the difficulty in doing the research related to cancer is there's no one single contributing. It can be environmental, it can be genetics, it can be lifestyle, all those factors continue into those cells malfunctioning that are the initiation of cancer. One of the things for statistic-wise is that out of the 22 metropolitan counties, these are all those affiliated with the metropolitan statistical areas. Woodbury County ranks 7th out of 22 in the total new incidence of cancer across the state. The top 5 cancers: prostate, female breast, lung, colorectal, and melanoma. Female breast is the only one that we are actually lower than the state and national incidence of new cases. So that was probably the best highlight of the day. The rest we lead either both the state and the national both. And then also we take a look at the 40% of those cancers can be to modifiable risk factors, meaning things that we would have some level of control over. So I think some of the things that we look at, we've always heard these about reducing the risk. We don't smoke, limit alcohol consumption, reduce indoor-outdoor air pollution, healthy diet, physical activity, decrease body weight, too much sun protection, those types of things. Those are all causations. I think one of the things that we'll be at looking across the state, and it's kind of one of the initiatives that may come out of some of this, is taking a look at what can we put into policy that'll encourage people to adopt healthier habits. One of the things that they showed in the research is the reduction in those that were smoking after the 2007 cigarette or tobacco tax increase. They're talking about the aspect, if you looked at that even from a perspective of if you increase that tobacco tax by $1, the percentage of decrease would be quite significant related to that. So they're looking at some things, and those are all ideas out there that really put that sort of health component into policy sort of work. Also, then they take a look at another statewide one that isn't there. It would be actually the prohibition of minors from using tanning beds. That is not something that's included with that. In Woodbury County, one of the things I wanted to let you know is the tanning ordinance that you did accept at one of the last year Board of Supervisors meetings. We are one of the few counties in the state that actually do active inspections of our tanning facilities, which means our staff go on site. They monitor the intensity of the bulbs in the beds. They take a look at the records, so the frequency of visits amongst individuals don't exceed state limits. In those counties that don't have a local tanning ordinance like that, it's a voluntary compliance. They're able to submit their application to the state and get relicensed again. There's nothing actually done on site within compliance. So that's one of the areas, but we do see a lot of minors going in and frequenting those. But those are just some of the things that came out of the discussion along with all the phenomenal data that was shared. So we're turning this over to our cancer coalition that exists. That was in existence prior to this. They're looking at a lot of work. Their initial was to really look at those preventative screenings in for individuals related to that. And then I think as the research comes about, we'll be taking a look at what are some of the causations. What's out there in the environment? What are we seeing in genetics? Where are the higher cancer incidents occurring? And what can we do to prevent that? But after the question last week, I thought I just wanted to give you a report update of some of the work that just happened since that point in time. So any questions?
if folks from the public wanted to see some of that data or that presentation, is that available?
If they go on the, let's see, the 99 County Cancer Tour, if they do a Google search on that, it'll take them to the website, and every set of slide decks from every county, the 59 counties that have done the presentation, you can go in and listed on there is Woodbury counties. So those specific slides are right there available for anyone in the public to be able to take a look at.
Yeah, so again, that's the 99 County Cancer Tour.
Yep.
And they can find Woodbury and they can look at that data set.
Yes. And one of the things with the discussions and questions is this data all comes from the Iowa Cancer Registry, which means that triggers to collect that information when there's been a new diagnosis of a cancer case, is what it is. So it doesn't get back into a lot of the history related to the causations, but that's part of the research they're proposing to do.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other citizen concerns? All right, board concerns. Tonight, we have a conference board budget meeting at 6. Matthew, are you still able to go to that? Matthew and I will be there. Tomorrow, we have a city conference board meeting at noon that we need to have 2 folks at, and then we've got negotiations starting at 9 o'clock here in the Dennis Butler meeting room. So, Dan, are you available tomorrow?
For, in the morning.
Either or.
Probably at noon. Let me check here. I think the noon I can make it work.
You want to go to the conference board at noon at City Hall?
Yeah, let me check real quick here. 1 second.
Either or.
Okay.
I'll be here at 9, go from
You'll be here at
there.
9. Okay, Matthew, you'll be here at 9. Okay.
Yeah, I wish I could be there at 9. Let me see 1 second. I think the noon will work. Bear with me here, sorry. Yes, tomorrow at noon, Mark?
Okay.
Yep, I can make that work.
Okay. Kent, will you be back tomorrow? Are you out of town?
I will, but I work all day. I can call
Okay.
in at 9
Okay.
to somebody's phone.
All right. Thank you, Kent. Any other board concerns? Dan, you have one?
Yeah, just a couple updates. Everyone's probably seen in the Dennis Butler meeting room. Back last year, I asked John to begin some updates on that, and so we're cleaning up some of the AV old cables on that, but everyone already knows about that project, so thanks to Michelle and Kenny for working with our board office, with Karen and Heather too, to get that all taken care of. Second of all, in this courthouse stairwell project, it's not a secretive project. However, I asked John once again to look at that back stairwell. There's a bunch of old AV stuff, equipment, cables, and so Kenny and his staff are helping out, doing a great job, but we're just cleaning up that back stairwell, all the floors and equipment, and just taking out old equipment, cable, making it safer, fixing some patching on the walls, stuff like that, to take care of the courthouse. So John found some extra savings in his budget to be able to cover all that, so thanks to that, and thanks, Kenny, for your staff helping out and being a part of that, as always. And then lastly, interesting, thanks, Matthew, for that update from the supervisor. I mean, I couldn't go to that. I was down in Florida last week, so. But it's funny, our ISAC, Iowa County magazine, in here, they list the ISAC top priorities, this year, legislative top priorities, is eminent domain. And they say we need to ban, eminent domain for private use, all this stuff. Well, but if you go in the back to advertisements, guess who's in the advertisement for the carbon pipeline? Summit Carbon Solutions. And so to me, it seems very hypocritical. Why would you allow something you're against to buy an ad in the magazine, which all the supervisors are against and ISAC is against? So anyhow, I'm not saying anyone, maybe someone missed it. I don't know, maybe it's big revenue. Who knows, advertising revenue. But I just thought it was very interesting. It says in here that, this pipeline, it's going to help generate all these things. And I just think it's, ISAC, if you're listening, don't give something ad space if we're against it. So anyhow. So that's all that I had. Thank you.
You got something, Matthew?
I don't know how much there is yet to discuss about the morgue issue, but perhaps we could have some substantive discussion on, what that looks like in the next week or two.
Yes, let me bring that up, yeah. We're still waiting on some feedback from some of the city stuff on, Kenny's working on that to get us, some final layouts, so before I write anything, anything that's a final, I want to wait in on that, but yeah, we will have some updates on that, so.
Yep, so I was just gonna say, Secondary Roads received their first belly dump pup trailer, and it looked like it was put to use for a quick video or whatever, and looked like it was working well, so it'll be good to see that in action, and more to come with that.
And the last thing I'll add is that, remember, we have a budget hearing, or our budget hearing on Friday is all day. Karen will have that agenda coming out, probably tomorrow? Yep. So look forward to a fun-filled day here with everybody, right? I'll bring the chocolate chip cookies. Okay? Yeah, all right. But yeah, Friday, we'll see everybody here. And if nothing else,